Prepare yourself for Dork Day Afternoon, a brand new actual play podcast.
New performers! Oh, that's fun.
The brainchild of two brothers, spawned from their desire to crush the fictional hopes and dreams of their friends and loved ones.
You remember what I said about being a monster of a GM?
Someone has to be a monster, and the GM's the one who probably should be.
2 shows every week. On Mondays, coming to you from the end of the world, 2 past midnight, a Twilight 2000 4th edition campaign.
As if being in prison wasn't stress enough. War is hell, gentlemen.
And on Thursdays, the circus comes to town with Encore of the Lost, a playthrough of the Extinction Curse AP, written for Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Valiant, no!
What is it, Pumpkin? I'm looking at pumpkins.
Roll for initiative.
Natural 20 for a total of 24.
25.
You.
Dork Day Afternoon. Listen, your life might just depend on it.
Aloha! This is Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing writer Adam Rose. He is here to promote his new miniseries, Corollary, from Source Point Press. Issue 1 is out in stores right now. Issue 2 comes out on May 18th. Adam, I have 2 questions for you. First off, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm happy to be here. Mahalo, right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Second, did I pronounce the title of your comic book?
You nailed it. And hindsight is 2020. I realize it's a mouthful. It is a mouthful.
But and I think later on in the questions, I'm going to ask you if there's a certain meaning to the title.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to give listeners a little bit background on your history. Please feel free to add anything or correct me. So now I think one of your comics that you wrote actually was a graphic novel, Playground, Attacks of the Gurglebots, that came out in 2018. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, that's where I really cut my teeth. That one's a middle grade comic, graphic novel. It's all, it was out through Marcosia Entertainment. They're a publisher out of England, and the premise was pretty basic as far as this kid named Felix Tremendez. He suddenly gets the powers of the playground. So if he's playing freeze tag, he can really freeze you. If he played Simon Says, he could compel you to do what he wanted you to do. And he had to face off against Principal Strict, who could manipulate candy, give you ice cream headaches, and too much candy stomach aches.
That sounds awesome. It does. It really does. That sounds awesome. And then for listeners, if you have children, or if you have your own kids or nieces and nephews, the graphic novel is available on Amazon right now.
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, straight from Marcosia on their site. But yeah, it's out there. It's still in print, and it's continuing to sell, at a smaller scale at this point. But it's definitely, I did that with Charles Tofield, great artist. I just want to shout out to him. He's based out of the Baltimore area. And yeah, it was a fun process, and I'm happy with how it came out. I'd love to kind of revisit the characters someday, but that was a fun time.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, I looked. I was trying to look up some of your other works that you've done. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I saw that you wrote some novels. Is that true? And
I've written. I've written 3 novels, but 2 of them I think were just me learning how to write a novel. And the latest one I'm just about to start submitting to publishers and hoping for the best. But I've also written like numerous short stories. I love the form of short stories. I've had a fair amount of those published in different like literary journals and magazines, from like little simple stories about a kid, in his local neighborhood, to like more dramatic situations about somebody who loses their mother, and they're with their single dad and trying to figure out who they are and what their identity is. So I always been writing in different forms, but I think comic book writing is probably like my number one love at the moment. But I've been living in Los Angeles for 20 years, so I've been writing. I started out writing like sketches, like improv based, like groundlings kind of stuff. Because when I first came here, that was like my number one pursuit. I was taking constant like sketch writing classes and improv classes, and loved like trying to come up with little 5-minute bits. And then I just continued to write and realized I also wanted, I've been a voracious reader and writer since I was a kid. So I've written a couple screenplays. I wrote one screenplay based on one of my novels that's about based on my real life, where I had all of my comic book collection stolen from my home the day of my 40th birthday.
Oh my God. Oh God. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just sorry to hear about that.
No, I agree. No, I mean, it hurts. It hurts. Because I was collecting since I was 8.
Yeah.
So that was about 5,000, 6,000 comics.
And I can imagine the key issues you must have had.
Oh, yeah. But I still love them. I still go every Wednesday. I can't stop writing them. I mean, I was actually, for a short time, I've been a professor at a college out here for video game designers, where it was a graphic novel course.
Yeah.
And just getting like, those are amazing art. It's called Noman School of Design, and they are like incredible artists already. So getting them to like come up with their own little short comics was just amazing to see happen. And so it's been in my life, like just in my veins since I could walk, as far as medium.
Oh, okay. Now, Adam, before we continue on, I want to give a big shout out to Rylan Grant for recommending Comics for Fun and Profit to you. So Ryan, I want to say thank you very much for recommending Adam to email me to come on the show. So thank you very much. And then also too, Adam, did you go on the Ryland show already, the writer's block?
I did, yeah. I got to go. I was on the writer's block this past Friday with him and David, and they just released it a couple days ago. It was a blast. I learned a lot talking to those two.
Oh, okay. All right. And then for listeners, please check out Ryland and David Avallone's podcast, the writer's block. Now there's no apostrophe after writers, but yeah, please check out Adam's interview during that show. Let's see. Also too, I want to let the listeners know that I did get some information from Adam's information from the audio podcast Talking Smack, and Smack is the acronym of Superheroes, Movies, Animation, Comics. That was episode 37 that just came out recently on March 12th. I also watched the YouTube podcast that you're on with Bearded Comic Bro. That came out. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. You've done your homework.
So that one came out on February 7th. And then also too, I also in a printed interview. I'm going to try to pronounce this one. Onishi Press. Is that it?
Oh yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I know that was dated back in July 15th, and the article was called "An Interview with Comics Writer Adam Rose."
Yes.
So I got some information from there. Okay, so Adam, where can listeners follow you on social media?
Great question. I'm on Twitter. Adam Rose, like the flower, 74 is my Twitter handle. And then Instagram, Shazam Cap. So
okay.
I managed to get that before the Shazam movie came out. So Shazam and then CAP. I just kind of blended Shazam and Captain America, I guess. Or maybe, I guess you could argue Captain Marvel too. But yeah, Shazam at Shazam Cap.
Ah, that's pretty cool. And like you said, at least you got it in before the movie came out.
Right.
All right. So, Adam, I'm going to ask you, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Massachusetts. Started in a small town called Grafton. a very small kind of just country town, and then moved a little closer to Boston. And yeah, I spent all of my childhood there. Then I ended up in college in Ohio,
Mhm.
at a small undergrad school there, and then I lived in New York City after that for a while, and then I came out here.
Mm-hmm. Ah, okay. All right. Now when I did actually sorry, I'm just trying to look through my questions right now. So um let's see, what was your first comics that you read? Your first comic or Sunday comic strips or whatever. What was the first one do you remember reading?
Well, I mean, I guess I have two answers. I mean, because you just brought up Sunday comic strips, and gosh, I wish, kids are missing so much with not having that joy on a Sunday and seeing the giant, colorful Sunday funnies. I mean, I guess it's there now, but I don't think, for me, it was like a religious experience to get
Mhm.
to do that. That was my church.
Yeah.
But for comics, like for like Sunday comics, like Far Side,
Oh God, yes.
Garfield, of course,
Mhm.
but Foxtrot, Bloom County, Baby Blues, better for better or worse, which
Oh yes.
when you think about how that's kind of a genius comic strip because they actually aged over the years. Like the kids got older, and so that's kind
Oh,
of an
okay.
amazing comic that it even existed. And then of course Calvin and Hobbes.
Yes. Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
And then as far as my first comic book, I think my grandfather, my mom's dad, or maybe it was, well, actually, both sets of grandparents seemed to just have a knack for it, and they got me comics. And I remember one of the very first one was a Teen Titans comic,
Oh, nice.
and another one randomly was Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think maybe I was watching Doctor Who at the time too, but I don't. Yeah, those were like two that I remember very distinctly, and then it just took. I mean, I couldn't put them down, and I was just consuming comics as much as I could, and going to my local comic store with my dad or my
Mm-hmm.
mom, and eventually getting a pull list, and
Nice.
it's been with me since I was like 8.
Mm-hmm.
I went to like a local con.
Yes.
This is dating me a little bit with my brother and sister, like a really small con in like Worcester, Massachusetts, and it was before Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were known to anyone. They were just an indie black
Mm-hmm.
and white comic, and Eastman was at a table, and he had these little pewter, like handmade turtles, and my sister got them,
Oh,
and they were signed on the bottom. She says she doesn't know where they are, but she doesn't think they're permanently lost.
mm-hmm. Oh my God. Wow. That
Yeah,
is pretty cool.
yeah.
That is pretty cool. All right. I know you mentioned a comic. You mentioned your comic shop. What was that name of your first comic shop that you started going and having a pull list?
Newbury Comics,
Mm-hmm.
which it's a small chain in New England. Well, I shouldn't even say small, actually. I think at this point they have like 15 stores in New England.
Oh, okay.
And I went to one in a smaller town. Like they had a bigger one in Boston, but yeah, that's where I started. I mean, nowadays, like they seem to have switched gears. Like they have their comic section, but they're like they're not like a pure comic book store anymore. They're more like they have vinyl and they have like cool clothes, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's good because it's trying to get young people to come in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where I started. And back then they had like tons of long boxes of back issues and all that stuff. But now it's, they have the new ones. They have like a little like area of graphic novels, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I went.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. So, how did your journey start working, writing, novels, short stories, screenplays, and eventually comics? How did that begin?
Well, I mean, I guess I was always such a voracious reader, and I found a love for writing in high school,
Mm-hmm.
creative writing, when I just had a couple of teachers that were really like introduced me to just, it kind of gave me permission to just trust my imagination. And then
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I found how much I loved it, and I loved the control I had. And then in college, I did a lot of like writing of short stories and poetry, and took a lot of like literature courses there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, like when I I realized, because I was pursuing like both writing and a long time ago acting pursuits
Mhm.
in LA,
Yeah.
and I realized early on, I was like, I have the most control when I'm creating something. If I'm not
Mhm.
waiting around for someone else to create something for me,
Mhm.
and that I just started writing religiously, both like script form and
Mhm.
prose, and I haven't stopped. Like I get the most joy out of writing. Like I don't,
Mhm.
and something I've learned along the way is you got to write the stories you'd want to read.
Yes.
You can't try to write for someone else. I mean, I guess some people do, and they make a lot of money, and they're very
Yeah.
successful at it. So I'm not poo-pooing that. I
Yeah.
guess I just think the where I feel the most free is when I'm just like, what's the story I want to read?
Yes. Yeah. No, that's yeah. No, I understand that. Yeah. So yeah, and then I'm gonna say that is a perfect segue going into um, that is the perfect segue to go into your mini series. So I'm going to give a little bit of history to the listeners now. Corollary. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It first appeared as a short story in the Origins anthology Kickstarter back in 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah, from Onishi Press. It started that way. Rob and I, the artist Rob Ahmad, we got together on this, and I had the whole story mapped out. But I also had heard about um, doing it for. Well, actually, originally I was like kind of thinking about making a 5-page mini story for Future Shocks, like England's 2000 AD, like
Yes.
Judge Dredd. They have like a Future Shocks, which are all these little mini stories. And then I got in contact with Onishi out here in the United States, and they were putting that anthology together, and they liked it a lot, so they took that little mini version of it. And then Rob, kind of when we realized we really wanted to make it a series, he went back to like panel 1, page 1, and redid the character design to like they became more like, as you so well put, like Saturday morning cartoonish kind
Yes.
of vibe. And from what that in that anthology, that version of the characters is a little different, a little more sketchy and cerebral looking
Mhm.
than what is in the series.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, for the listeners, can you tell that, can you actually tell us what is the story about?
Yeah, so it's in a galaxy of twins where just about every being
Mm-hmm.
has a twin.
Mm-hmm.
If your twin dies, so do you.
Okay.
However, for some reason, this one particular person has survived the twin death.
Mm-hmm.
The galaxy wants to know why,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like it's created such a huge sandbox concept, because here, there might be beings that, don't trust their twin to play it safe and could get killed. And so maybe some people might keep their twin like locked up in a padded room to make sure that they stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
Others might maybe someone's feeling like that they want to just always be attached to the hip, and they do everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Others might be galaxies apart from each other, and they just are rolling the dice that everything's going okay because they're still here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, how did you come up with the story? Because I know there's how did you come up with the story?
Well, yeah, I was putting my daughter to bed. She was about 4 or 5 at the time, and some friends of ours we knew were having twins.
Mm-hmm.
And she, as I like kind of tucked her in, put a little blankie next to her, she's like, "Dad, if a twin gets tickled, will the other one laugh?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, that's a great question." And then I left the room and I went to a totally dark direction of, if your twin dies, so do you.
Yeah.
And it took off from there. And then, just when I saw who my main character was, like Andromeda,
Mm-hmm.
I knew who she was right away, and I knew that it was going to be, that's like the premise, but it's really about her.
Mm-hmm.
It's about her kind of figuring out her identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is it? Who is she without her sister? Who is she? What is she? How could she reclaim a sense of family and identity, because it's also you'll quickly learn about like what her reaching out to her other family members, and at the same time,
Mhm.
she has kind of a Han Solo vibe where you're like, well, she seems out for herself, but you realize there's more to her than that.
Mhm. Now, in a previous interview, I know you mentioned that you watched Battlestar Galactica,
Oh yeah,
and we're talking the 1978 Battlestar Galactica, if I'm right. We're not talking the
I
recent.
love the new one too, but yeah, both. Yes.
Yeah. And then also too the Buck Rogers TV series while
Oh
you're
yes.
growing up. Now, how much influence did these space adventures have on the story?
I would say quite a lot. Maybe more with Buck Rogers
Mhm.
than the original Battlestar, but that's there too. Because Buck, there were all kinds of beings that he encountered,
Mhm.
and it just those shows just watching those growing up, like they just give you permission to realize in a galaxy anything's possible.
Mhm.
We all just celebrated May the 4th,
Yeah, that's right.
and
Yes.
Star Wars. I heard an original review from 1978 or whatever on they like replayed this like, review of Star Wars, and they kind of just summed up like how it's like brought back the science fiction like of like, and they were comparing it at the time to things like Wizard of Oz
Mhm.
and
Yes.
Alice in Wonderland, and just it was great to hear like just how big you can make a world, but at the heart of it, you need characters you care about.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. And then now that's a great segue to the next question. Now, I know you've already mentioned Andromeda. Um, who are your are there any other main characters in this miniseries?
Absolutely. And without revealing too much,
Mhm.
you're gonna, I guess, yes, the first issue you really just see mostly her,
Yes.
but you will be seeing some other very significant role players in the second issue, like three of them in particular. It's hard for me to say
Oh, yeah.
much without
Oh,
revealing too much, but
yes.
yes, you're definitely going to see some other characters that stay with us for the whole series.
Okay. Now, my next question is, does the title Corollary, does it have a certain meaning to it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought of it because, the word corollary or things that are in correlation, it's like, what is something when it's next to something else?
Mhm.
What is something that connects to something else? And I named the planet that she's going to in the first issue Corollary. And it's a lot about her. Like, who is she without that other person? Like, who is like, so it's about, so it's using that word, but all, kind of also stretching the meaning of it to include how that would relate to someone and how they identify.
Okay. All right. Um, now I know you talked about this, that this galaxy, there's twins, in the first issue, because I know I think I saw Andromeda. I think it was Andromeda drinking like a beer bottle, but it was like two beer bottles connected.
Right.
So now I'm joking on this part. Did you do any double mint gum references in the series? And you know what I'm talking about.
I wish I did. Yeah. No. That'll have to be for the next series. That's a great. Yeah. Double your pleasure.
Yeah. All right. And then um and when you're developing the series, did you have like sort of a Bible, like, and I don't mean like a strict guideline or anything, but just something on paper, like a Bible for your characters, the ships, when the ships travel? Because in issue one, and I'm not going to give away anything, but in issue one, I love how they have to like get to one part of the galaxy to another, and Andromeda does something very unique that I've never seen, because it's always like, the Enterprise is always warp speed, the Falcon is warp speed, but that was pretty cool what Andromeda did. And I would say it's more of a realistic thing, I think. So
Yeah,
did you?
that was kind of what I was playing with. Yeah, though, in the future you'll see maybe there are some kind of cheat codes to get to different points in the galaxy more quickly.
Yes.
Something comes up in issue 2 that is connected to that. No, I did. Yeah, I have a Bible. It you know, as far as like fleshing out my main characters, like there's a kind of a core 4 or 5 characters that needed the most kind of who are they, and working back and forth with Rob as far as like, yeah, I had it all written out, but then like him kind of sketching them out, that helped me kind of feed me even more as to how I wanted them to look, and like the different kind of characteristics and qualities that I want their personalities to show through how they kind of carry themselves. So that was a back and forth to some degree, and then just the breakdown of each issue and the world building was really important to me. And I really, I have, you're going to meet characters in this that are like the equivalent to like Marvel's Celestials and the Green Lantern's sentient planet.
Oh yes.
Muog.
Yeah.
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 So and lots of anthropomorphic beings. I guess I'm, totally, I hope in a not like stealing way, but I was heavily influenced by Saga. I was heavily influenced by Guardians of the Galaxy. And and mashing all of those influences up, but also just like you brought up earlier, like Thundar the Barbarian, just a blending, I think, of fantasy and science fiction that where I wanted to give myself permission to, like, in the first issue, there's in the middle of space is a floating city on the back of these giant dinosaurs.
Yes.
So that's, I said to myself, I knew I wanted her to come to like a space station at first. I was like, well, why can't it be a city in a bubble on the back of why not?
Yes.
Why can't it be? So, I just kept saying yes to myself as long as, the linear through line was intact.
And then now, because I'm gonna jump a little bit of ahead now and come back to some questions. So, did you tell Rob about these cities on dinosaur backs? Did you tell him the idea, like how to make it look like, or did you say, or who came up with the final design, because that looks so cool?
Well, I mean, yeah, I had, the way I script comics, I know everyone's different. When it comes to something like that, I give a pretty detailed panel description of what I want.
Yes.
And, I think Rob, he didn't blink. And, I think we had a few back and forth, but that was like the beauty of working with him. Like he would send me some thumbnails and then I'd say, well, I need this to be even bigger. I want to see more like of an indication of the city here or whatever. And then he'd like, go try something new. And then we turn it into like actual, like, pencils and inks. And then sometimes even at that stage, I'd say, maybe I want the scale of the city to be like even greater to her ship. And so, in the end, I think it was very collaborative, but I guess to start with, I hope I give very detailed, maybe overly verbose descriptions of what I'm looking for.
Because I have to say, when I saw that panel, I was like, oh man, this is so awesome.
Yeah, no, I love it. And the watercolors make it pop.
And then how did you and Robert, and your artist is Robert Ahmad, right? Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and he's the artist and also the colorist for at least the first 3 issues. So how did you team up with him?
So I was in touch with this other artist who I just asked for his advice. I think I met him at a con out here. This other artist's name is Rob as well. And he told me that based on the pitch of what I was talking about, that Rob Ahmad would be someone I should talk to. And Rob, he just finished like an Action Lab comic, or actually a Scout comic,
Mhm.
and he said, you know what, you got to send me the pitch because I'm pretty busy and I got to really like it to commit. And he was all in when he saw what I had to offer, and it was kind of interesting. We started together before the pandemic,
Mhm.
but then the pandemic, it maybe in some ways helped move us along
Mhm.
because and it was all back and forth through email and instant message. I
Mhm.
mean, weren't even a lot of like actual Zoom meetings or anything. Just he'd send me things. I'd give him notes,
Yeah.
copious notes, and he was okay with it at all times.
Mhm.
And and then we went the final stage. DC Hopkins, our letterer,
Yes.
he was a pro. Like he's done every like big publishing book you can think of, and he was actually very flexible too. Like he was really cool with like if he'd have it lettered, and you think, oh, at that point it should be done.
Mhm.
But there were sometimes I realized, oh, you know what, we need to like kind of cut something here or change this that,
Mhm.
and he was great about all of it. So it was a great team.
Mhm. And I'm gonna the other thing I loved about DC Hopkins lettering, especially in the first issue, is he distinguishes Andromeda's and and her sister when they're
Yes,
talking to each other, and I love that. You
yes,
know.
it's very important that that is distinct.
Mhm. Yeah,
That was something we talked a lot about.
okay. That is so cool. And then I'm just gonna ask, do you want to give out a shout out to the other colorist?
Oh, Gabby Metzler. Yeah, she's great. She's in on. She did all of the. So Rob watercolored by hand for the first 3 issues,
Yes. Mhm.
and then he was very honest with me. And at first I was like kind of freaking out, but he was just like, I'm fried on doing the watercoloring. It's too much. And he recommended Gabby. He's like, I think she can mimic what I'm doing digitally, and she did, and it's great. So when the 4th issue comes out in July,
Mhm.
you won't miss a beat.
Yeah. And then for listeners, before we started this, I told Adam that I love Rob's art style for this miniseries, and as Adam mentioned, it has that Saturday morning vibe to it, and I've already mentioned, we already talked about, but it also has a little bit of that Thundar the Barbarian feel to it, a little bit futuristic, a little bit of fantasy, but it's just great. It just works great.
Well, it means a lot to hear because it's that's exactly what I was going for,
Mhm.
and hear you say it just feels great.
No, but yeah, like I said, and it's just great, and the colors are great, and I love the story. And again, listeners, me and Adam were talking some stuff, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone. So if you guys, and I'll say this again at the end of the interviews, that check this mini series out. You guys have to. One more question about Rob was there an idea that you threw at Rob, and I know he would come and he would do stuff. He would draw it, show it back to you. Did he show you anything that literally blew your mind? Like, oh my God, I didn't. This is so awesome, you know.
Yeah. No, gosh. Yes. In like issues 3 and 4,
Okay.
what he did was unbelievable. Like you'll see like kind of these other characters that come in, and well, yes, and you'll see a giant character in particular that's going to come in that's going to blow your mind. I mean, no, Rob just like some of the splash pages that come in are just astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very patient with me when I kept telling him to go bigger, go bigger, go bigger, and he did it, and it was great.
Okay, that's so cool. Now, I'm gonna now this question is, and if you don't mind me asking this question, so how did you get linked up with a cool publisher like Source Point Press?
So I was like I wanted to get with them for a while,
Oh, okay.
and I started going to cons. Well, I mean, I've always gone to cons,
Mhm.
but I went to like WonderCon, back in Anaheim, like before the pandemic, and I started talking to them at booths there. I went to LA Con, and I just was, and I had another pitch for them that I was hoping they were going to be interested in before I even came up with Corollary, and they were kind of interested. And then when this one, the timing of just going in person to see them all, and Josh Werner and Cameron Kyle, who were kind of the point people. Actually, I think it was Josh I met in person. Cam I didn't, but they were really receptive. And this was like luckily right before the pandemic, we're getting to meet someone in person worked out.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then they were just very, when Rob, like initially when Rob did those watercolors, we were only thinking of doing it for like certain pages to like convey some kind of different tone and emotion or something. But they were like, this is so stunning. Why not the whole thing like this? And that was it.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
That is really nice. Now, I'm going to ask, will we now? I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a 4 or 5 issue miniseries? I can't remember.
It's 4 issues.
4. Okay. Now, will we see more of Andromeda after this miniseries?
Great question, and I hope so. I feel like the story has a satisfying ending. Like you land, you feel like you got every little loose end has been tied up, but it also, the last page leaves you with, oh my gosh, I want to see where this goes with these people.
Okay.
Or these beings.
All right, so Adam, I'm going to start slowly wrapping things up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because in one of your interviews I listened to, that are you a toy collector?
A little bit. I mean, yeah, I still have all my He-Man from my back in the day. I have like the Darth Vader case and some Star Wars there. Some action figures, but I even have a few toys here and there where they are still in their original, packaging.
Yes.
So I don't know if I'd go as far as to say collector, but yes, I do have some.
Because I remember in one of the interviews you mentioned that you had a Godzilla.
Oh yes, that I got rid of that, or my parents got rid of that when I was a kid. I had an original. Yeah, he was like this big.
Yeah.
There's a lever on his back. And
yes.
His flame would come out. His arm would pop off.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss him. I also had Rodan.
Oh wow!
Big flapping wings, everything.
So now this is an off-the-cuff question. So are you a Godzilla fan too?
Big time. I love kaijus. I love that they're having kind of this renaissance.
Yes.
I loved Godzilla as a kid. Loved. There was every Saturday there was in where I lived. It was called Creature Double Feature. And they'd have like back-to-back Godzilla movies, or maybe Ultraman would be another one. And I couldn't get enough. No, I loved Godzilla. I loved King Kong. I guess, I mean, maybe I wasn't realizing now how much there of that stuff is out there. Maybe I'm not as big an expert as other people are, because it's it seems like it's way bigger than I even realized. But yeah, I love that stuff. I mean, I remember when he faced, what is the robotic Godzilla called?
Oh, the Mecha Godzilla?
Mecha Godzilla, yeah. I loved all of that. And the new movies, I've seen them and they've been fun.
Yes.
I like the old ones. Maybe I'm just nostalgic, but yeah, the old ones just have they were a lot more playful.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so this is an off-the-cuff question. If IDW should call you and go, hey, we liked the miniseries you did. We heard you're a big Godzilla fan. Do you have a story for them if they call you?
100%. I would. IDW, if you want me on Godzilla, I am all yours. I have 10 story ideas off the top of my head and a few written already. Yes.
Nice. You're prepared. That's so
I am prepared. Absolutely. I would love to work for IDW. They're great.
Yeah, that is so cool. All right. Now I know you said you're not a real big toy collector, and I know you mentioned that you have some in the original packaging. What is your prized possession among them,
Ooh.
whether it's packaged or unpackaged?
Right. Okay. Let me think about this. I I have some action figures, like Marvel action figures from like the late 80s that are still in there. I have a Punisher still in his box,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
and you could even press the buttons on the back and
Yeah.
sound effects. I have, oh man, I have, I guess one thing that one collection I have, they are not boxed, but I have the original, all the mask. Remember the
Oh,
different
yes.
vehicles? I have
Yes.
all yes, I have my, so I guess I am more of a toy collector than I'm saying.
No,
I
no,
just
yeah.
yeah, so I have like all the masked toys, or most of them, and they're like just in a closet somewhere, but they were all played with.
No, yeah.
So
It's yeah.
so yeah, I have those. I mean, I have some other, what else? I mean, gosh, I know there's a couple other like packaged toys from. Oh yes, I have like an original like Batman from like the late 80s or
Yes.
whatever that's still in the package. Sadly, I have a Joker one, but the packaging, the glue like came off the adhesive,
Oh,
so
yeah. Hmm.
it just nothing I could do about that.
Oh, yeah.
But
All right. So another off the cuff question. You have the mask toy line. If some publishing, let's say Source Prime Press, let's say, hey, we're gonna start doing some licensed properties. We pick up mask. You get a phone call from Josh Warner. Hey, Adam.
I would, gosh, yes, I would love to write on a mask series. I played with those toys so much. I have storylines that I would pull from my childhood to do for that. It would be great.
That'd be so cool. That'd
Oh
be
yeah.
nice. All right. I'm gonna for because every toy collector has their white whale. What is your white whale?
Well, I guess it would be what I did already have, but it just, I didn't keep it uh, in good condition, and it was the original giant Millennium Falcon.
Oh my god.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know where my wife would let me put it, but I loved that thing. I played with that forever.
I never had that, but yes, I've seen it, and yes. Oh my god.
It was great.
Yeah.
The back came off, and you could have like Luke and Chewie hanging out there.
Mm-hmm.
It had like the landing like legs that would
Yes.
pop up. The cockpit, you could put Chewie and Han in there. It was great, and it had the sound effect button.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
The secret compartment to smuggle things.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Wow. Well, if you ever run across one of the, well, of course, not there'd be those that will probably be very costly.
Yeah.
But you could tell your wife, well, this is for future research.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In case I have no idea who has the well, I know Marvel has the main license, but I think they licensed it out to either, was it Dark Horse IDW for
It
their
was Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Now I think they have everything back now.
Yeah. So hey, this future research in case, one of those companies call me,
Right.
All right. What is the most I think you probably answered this, but I'm gonna ask you the question. What is the most fun or exciting thing that you love working in comics or writing? I know you said most of it was the creative, you get to create your own, you have more control over your creativity. But is there anything else that you love about writing comics or writing
Yes.
stories?
It's just comics is such an original American art form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like jazz, which I think they came up at the same time, and it has its own music to it. Like it just envisioning, like, when the reader flips the page, what are they going to see that's going to up the stakes even more? Or, you know, like if you're on the next page, how about like what kind, you know, it feels like it's time, like this is a moment that deserves a splash page and really needs to pop. So it's like you're building a theater on the page. You are building something three-dimensional, two-dimensionally. And that's what I think is amazing about it. And as I've told like my students when I teach comic book courses, and especially to people that aren't familiar, and I really believe this, like I think the medium of comic books in the world of all the things we have, that's the magic exists in them, because from the panel to panel, in that gutter, in the bleed, our minds are able to fill in like $200,000 worth of special effects, from Andromeda standing with her laser gun in one panel, and then in the next panel she is taken off with her jetpack, and it's like looming over some, like, you know, people that are trying to get at her. You have filled in everything of her like igniting it, flying, like it's all happened. And that's amazing to me. So, and I think I'm getting better and better at it, and I think Corollary is where I'm at my best so far as is knowing what beats we are able to fill in, but also making sure I don't leave beats out.
Okay. All right. Adam, slowly wrapping this up. What was your favorite convention moment, whether either as a fan or as a creator?
Okay, wow. I think my favorite, well, the first time I went to San Diego, when I was really just trying to, like, I was there as a fan, but I was also there as a creator, just trying to meet people, and just realizing how incredibly generous of time and advice most of the comic book community is. People are really, you know, supportive of one another. And I mean, yeah, sure, there are people like that are too busy to give you like a minute, and I get it, but for the most part, like, people were really generous with their time and were open to my questions, and that was amazing. And, you know, simultaneously, that being my first time at the biggest con in the world, just the scale and scope, and just seeing like the fan base and how like the thought put into the costumes and the cosplay and some of the panels, it was amazing. You know, just an amazing experience. And then, but then, you know, going back, I guess my first one as a kid, just feeling part of that. I mean, I guess it connects, but just feeling like, oh, these are my people.
Yeah.
Like, you know, growing up, it was few and far between people that were into comics. I think that's changed now. Well, yes and no, it's changed. I feel like now, sure, everybody's watching, but that's not the same.
Yes.
So I think there are more out there, but you know, it's when you get that community, it's just it feels safe, it feels welcoming, it feels supportive.
That's nice. Do you have any upcoming con appearances or store signing appearances?
I do. Yeah, no, thanks for asking. This Saturday, I'm really excited. If you are in Los Angeles, Golden Apple Comics, and this is kind of like a bucket list dream come true, because when I first moved out here, I went there all the time. Ryan is the owner of the place. He's having me for free comic book day. I'm going to be there. A friend of mine who owns like the best soft serve ice cream, CVT, they're going to be there. It's going to be great. And then I'm going to be at the Comic Bug in Culver City for the release of issue 2 on May 18th. And then I am hoping it's going to all work out, but I will be at Emerald Con in Seattle at the Source Point booth in August.
Oh, that's going to be nice.
Yeah.
Because I've always heard about Emerald City.
Yeah, I've never been to that one. I've heard it's amazing, so I'm excited. And I love Seattle.
Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, off the cuff question. Have you been to Pike's Market?
Oh yeah, I've seen them throw the fish. My
Yes.
wife is from Seattle, so I've been up a few times. Yeah, it's fun. It's
And
a
then
great-
oh shoot, it just went out of my the comic book shop up there.
yeah.
So you've been there?
Oh yeah,
My
it's
God.
great.
It
I forget
is.
the name of it, but I've been there a few times.
I know. I want to say, yeah, it's golden. I want to say it's Golden Age Comics. I think. I know. Yeah, but it's awesome. It really
Yes.
is. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Have you and your family been to Hawaii?
Only one. I've been once. Just my wife and I before the kids in Maui,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was amazing.
Mhm.
We're dying to get back with the kids.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the last question: any closing words to our listeners?
I appreciate you and getting to be on your show. This has been amazing, and you're a thoughtful person with wonderful questions, and just the kind of things you've said about my comic make it feels like you get what I'm going for, and I really appreciate that. And other than that, no, just I hope people are enjoying it, and I hope I know you always hear like people. It's easy to get people to read the first issue, but getting them to stick with it, and I hope people do because there's a lot going on in this story. And May 18th is issue 2, and then it's monthly, so then June 20th ish,
Yes.
and then July, and that'll be the series.
Yeah. So, Adam, just thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I wish you all the success with your mini series. And right now my mind is going blank. I am being honest with the listeners. With your mini series, with
Corollary.
Corollary. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Corollary. Yeah. So, and I'm going to be honest with you, Adam. All morning I've been like practicing Corollary.
It's hard. You've done great.
But it's a very good title. You explain the title. It's because it's a how you explain the title. It has a meaning to it, and that's the thing I loved about the title, just to see that there's a little bit more of a meaning to it.
Yes.
Great.
Absolutely. I hope like every page has, and what you caught about her, what she says to herself, like the alone versus alive. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So again, listeners, I love the first issue. It has a nice Saturday morning cartoon vibe to it. Like I said, I just love it. If you guys get a chance, pick up this series. Adam, I want to say mahalo. Thank you in Hawaiian. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview. Thank you very much.
Anytime. Thank you. Mahalo.
And I also want to thank Rylan again. Rylan, thank you very much for recommending Comics for Fun and Profit to Adam. So, just Rylan, thank you very much. And if you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out Corollary. It is a 4-part miniseries from Source Point Press. Issue 1 is out in stores right now. Please, pick it up. If it's not in your stores, ask your stores to order it. I love it. Issue 2 comes out on May 18th. Issue 3 comes out on June 22nd, and issue number 4 comes out on July 20th.
That's right. Very good.
And I want to thank Drew, the host of Comics for Fun and Profit, for putting this episode together. Drew, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys. Aloha.
Hey guys, it's Drew from Comics for Fun and Profit, and it's time again to support Hurricon. This is a fundraising comic convention for the Bethany Congregational Church of East Rockaway, New York, sent to us by our friend David Donovan, our friend of the show and patron David Donovan. And why should you support Hurricon? And this year it's being called FurnaceCon as well, for that Bethany Congregational Church of East Rockaway, New York. Well, Let me tell you in his own words. Hurricane Sandy hit my hometown of East Rockaway, Long Island. Homes were flooded, trees were toppled, boats were thrown on the mainland, and many residents were forced from their homes and lost everything. The relief center after Hurricane Sandy was located at the Bethany Congregational Church of East Rockaway Gym for months. Neighbors affected by Hurricane Sandy came in and walked out with whatever they needed to get on with their lives. Hundreds of people came to the Bethany Church during the following months, and the gym floor took a beating. The gym floor has been redone and looks great, but we still had to pay for it. And that is what Hurricane, a comic art convention, that is how Hurricane, a comic art convention, was born. In addition to housing the Relief Center, Bethany has hosted Next Step Ministries at the church every summer since Hurricane Sandy. Next Step went into the surrounding community and performs repairs for free. So why support Bethany Church? The church has been part of the community since 1885. The church runs the Thriftique, which is a thrift store that sells clothing and household items at very reduced prices to many low-income families in the area to come by and buy these items they could not afford somewhere else. Bethany also collects food for the Long Island Council of Churches Emergency Food Pantry and makes weekly contributions. Bethany Church is a member of the UCC and is an open and affirming congregation. That means that everyone is welcome to worship regardless of race, creed, religious affiliation, or sexual orientation. This winter, the church's furnace failed and had to be replaced. As you can imagine, this was a costly repair, and FurnaceCon came to be. What will you find at FurnaceCon 2022? Comic books, of course, but also comic book writers and artists, toys, food, local artists, collectibles, cosplay, fellowship, and much, much more. We hope you consider supporting FurnaceCon on June 4th, 2022, and Hurricane on later this year on November 11th. So we have 2 cons this year. If you're interested in supporting Bethany Church through their Venmo, you can do so at Bethany East Rock. It's Bethany East Rock, BETHANY East Rock, EASTROCK. And please include a note that your donation is toward the furnace. If you have more information, you can contact David Donovan at Hurricon, HURRICON, at yahoo.com, or give him a call, 516-209-1587. So support FurnaceCon on June 4th and save the date for Hurricane later this year, November 11th, all to support this church's efforts in their community.